Okay, we here at ALS Perth Tribology, and samples will be dropped off in the laboratory side door. So it's the receipt area that couriers will come to. They will, the post office samples get dropped off here. Basically all samples are dropped off here, and we will then start processing the incoming packages. The post office samples come in a box like this, and we will allocate a number to the box, because they don't come with a tracking number for the box, and we do this with a number of labels that you can see an example here. It's upside down, but we just have a barcode for each number, and they're just sequential numbers, just so that we can allocate a number to a tub. If we can just go back to, you starting already on this one?
Yeah, I'm
all right, let's just go back to the main window there. Just click on main, and what's happened is we've selected the incoming packages tab, which then opens up this screen. So if I just show the details that we're capturing, this is from the post, so there's a drop down there that looks up a table for all the different couriers. The client is other, because it's mixed clients from the post. It's one tub, and we've got the analyst's name who's capturing it, and then what will happen is we just use a barcode scanner, little tags attached, and the package ID is scanned. So whether that's coming in from the courier or from a hand delivery will also allocate one of these in-house numbers, and we'll just copy that through for the moment. That then's closed. They will then go to logging SIF numbers. Add a new record. We'll just put in that SIF number, tracking number that we've just added. The analyst adds their name, and then as the package, as the tub is unpacked, each sample bottle is scanned in and allocated to that particular con note number. So this has some value for the post, but most of the value here is obviously for either hand deliveries or courier deliveries, where a client will call and say they've dropped off SIF number X, Y, and Z, or at least con note, whatever the con note is, and then we can check to see if we've received that con note at the laboratory. And because we're going to scan each sample against the con note, we can then work out exactly how many samples came in on that con note and all the details surrounding that. Now this process is two-phase, so you can scan in all the packages earlier on, and then later when time avails to unpack them, or else, as is the case here, we've just scanned in the package and now we're going to scan in the sample details. So with this one, it's not ideal that the client hasn't done necessarily the right thing, and so now we have to stick the label on. This is less than ideal. But anyway, this is sometimes what we have to deal with in the laboratory. So because this client hasn't actually made a barcode available for the SIF number, we're having to manually type it in, and so we'll add all the samples in that batch to this window on the screen, and that will complete the access database part. There is also another feature, if I can just find the mouse for this computer, under the main window, where if there's a priority sample coming through, we can add expecting samples, and then from the expecting samples we can add either a SIF number, a con note, or a company name, and then this will automatically email through once that sample is being received in at this stage. So it's a great feature when the client calls up to say, can you prioritize the sample that we're sending to you? Their lab shift controllers or supervisors immediately get an email alerting them to the fact that there's a priority sample coming through. That I didn't write about that in the email, but it's a good feature to have. You can also add comments about the sample, so maybe the client wants some extra testing done on that sample number. That can be captured, and then when that sample again comes into the lab, those details are made available. Once that process is complete for all those samples, I add all those sample numbers to the tracking program. We then split up the samples and we split them up as indicated in the email. Ones that these trays here that are closest are normally used for the labels, because most of our samples are pre-registered, about 80% in the laboratory, and there aren't actually a lot of examples at the moment where it's sifts. Those have all been processed for the day. Not all of them, there are some here. So the sifts normally stay as a separate stream, and that just helps data entry a little bit. Then in terms of labels, here's an example of a list of numbers. Alright, so those top two are for the rack ID, and then the rest of the numbers are for the sample numbers. These will then be applied to each sample number, and the rack ID just gets stuck down over there. And there's quite a lot of information, as you can see, on each one of those labels. The label printer at the moment has actually failed under warranty. The label printer looks like that. So it's a Citizen CLS 700, and these are used quite widely within the business. So hopefully once repaired under warranty it will be reliable. But those labels have been cheap to do. They work out at just around 1 cent each. And if it is a SIF rack, what will happen is that the list is about twice as long, with a number for the bottle and a number for the SIF sheet. The next step in the process is that the bottles are all labelled up with those numbers, sequential. Top of the first bottle we put the rack number as well, rack number, and then on the SIF sheets these will also have a copy of the number. And so 19, 20, 21, we can see towards the back end of this rack there were SIFs. So these are all waiting to be then logged into SAM. So the next stage is, as per most of the laboratories, just logging samples into SAM. And again, because everything's barcoded now, it's pretty straightforward. We just scan in the sample and it's all ready to go in, which is quite helpful. We also do visual examination at this stage. One of the reasons is that shortly after this the samples are going to get tumbled, and it's much easier to see the visual debris that has had ample opportunity to settle. So we think doing the visual scan right up front is the right time to do it, and then as soon as they've logged it in they can just enter into SAM any comments, into the lab comments field of any visual debris that they've seen. So she's just checking there's a bit of a lighting arrangement, so the sample's well lit, and then checking with the magnet to see if there's any ferrous debris present in the sample. So this has been a good step to do. Also, if there's any free water, we would look to quantify it at this stage as well. Once tumbled, it becomes harder to do some of these things. So over here what we're doing is we're just setting up test tubes for the ICP and FTIR. We're going to take a rack, we're going to subsample the rack bottles into the test tubes. Just prior, before doing this process, we've got our tumbler over here, and it basically flips the samples. I'll see if I can pull it up from the bottom. So the samples are just rotated end on end for about 5 to 10 minutes, and so from tumbling we'll then pour out the samples into the test tubes, and then from there we put them through our automated PQ system. There is a video detailing what this does, and the PQ analysis is then complete, and the racks are then free for the rest of processing, whether it be through ICP and FTIR on the test tubes, or whether it's on the actual physical rack itself for the rest of the laboratory testing.